How to lose so much freaking fat that you look unrecognizable. The comprehensive science guide. Now, if you thought that this video was going to be me giving you the specifics only, like do this type of workout, eat this type of diet, then you came to the wrong place. I'm going to give you the science behind it and then actionable steps that you can do. But first, let me tell you a story. I wanted to explain the thumbnail right here. So on the left, that's my senior graduation. And as you could clearly see, me standing by myself, I was overweight, my stomach poking out the jacket. It got this pimple right here. It just look at my stance. You thought I was happy. My family was making me take pictures and stuff, and it was just annoying and stuff. And I didn't have a date. I could have, the thing was, it wasn't that I couldn't have gotten one. It's just that I couldn't get one because of my own mind. I would bully myself in my own mind just because of my weight. And because of that, it just showed out in my actions. And I tried to avoid people. I try to wear bigger clothing than this. I should have brought a picture, but I used to wear really large clothing on me so that I can hide each and every single little bit part of me. And because of that, I try to stay away from others. But then I lost the weight. You know how it goes. You do the workouts, you get on a diet and all that. And then I was actually on a blind date. So I actually won with my eyes closed. And literally all I had to do was rely on my conversation. And due to me losing the weight and putting in the work and being disciplined and all that, that just showed out in my own actions. And because of that, I was able to raise my self-confidence, winning this competition blindfolded. I know you don't see the blindfold right now, but this is like the award and things like that, as you clearly see. My name is Omar, and I was able to lose 80 plus pounds within a year, and I have helped other people on their weight loss journey. The promise that I'll make to you right now is I'll be discussing the science behind burning fat. That's it. Also giving you the workouts and the diets. And I'll go into that more specific a little bit later. But I have this ultimate fat loss protocol. This is going to be a science-based guide in which I personally give you a regimen based on your situation. I am a person who has read about the science behind it, done it themselves, went on their own weight loss journey, and helped other people. So I'll be able to give you a comprehensive overview on what you can do. Aren't you just tired of having to try all these things and it doesn't seem to work and you're not able to stay consistent? Well, how could you stay consistent if you don't know the science behind it? A lot of people tend to quit because they don't know why they're doing the thing that they're doing. That's why I'll be giving you a personalized regimen on effective weight loss so that you don't have to be confused and you can fully trust the process. Now, if you're looking to get the dream physique of your life, be able to walk outside with a shirt off without feeling insecure, then go ahead and click on the top of the description right now and get ready to start enjoying your life. But other than that, let's get to the main video. Here's the plan. I'm going to be going over understanding fat and its role, how burning fat works, workouts plus 3 hidden techniques, and a diet guidelines. So this guide is mainly for burning fat. Now, we have other macronutrients like carbs and protein, but this is going to be specifically on what fat is and how to burn it. But I'll briefly touch upon carbs and protein. So let's get to it. In order to lose fat, you must know what it is. Now, what is widely known? Let's just say you don't know or you wish to touch up on the topic. If you go on a caloric surplus, eating more calories than your maintenance, you will gain weight. If you eat at the same at your maintenance, you will maintain weight. You will not lose or gain weight. If you eat at a caloric deficit, you'll lose weight. All right. Today, we're going in depth. My fault for that. Today, we're going in depth of what fat is and how to lose it. This guide was specifically focused on fats as opposed to carbs and protein. However, I briefly touch upon them. I forgot I wrote this. Understanding fat and its role. So, the fundamental physiology of fat loss. There's 4 main types of tissues. And I'm going to be breezing through this, but I'll mainly tell you the part that you would like to remember. for your fat loss. So we're going over the connective tissue. The function of the connective tissue, if you not familiar with, is it supports and binds, and mainly the one that we need to care about for fat loss is protects other tissues and organs. It has various subtypes with different functions and properties. So here's an example. Here's some examples. We're going to be tackling fat known as adipose tissue. I'll be referring to fat in our body as adipose tissue for the rest of this presentation so that it doesn't get confusing when we talk about fats we will be ingesting. So adipose tissue and fat is the same thing. All right, so I know it's a little bit weird, but I have some headphones on. It's because it was a little bit loud in my environment, so I just wanted something to focus on. But let's get right back into it. Your adipose tissue is responsible for 7 things. So your endocrine function. Adipose tissue, let's go over the slide real quick. This adipose tissue functions as an endocrine organ, meaning it produces, secretes hormones and signaling molecules that have widespread effects on your body. Meaning that, right, your adipose tissue have hormones and things like that. So, for example, leptin. Leptin is a fat hormone. It notifies your hypothalamus. Your hypothalamus controls your metabolism, and your metabolism is essentially how food is turned into energy. So your hypothalamus is what responsible for your metabolism being as slow as it is or as fast as it is. Meaning the more body fat you have, the more full you feel. The less body fat you have, the more hungry you feel, essentially. And then this one improves your insulin sensitivity, resistance. I'll go over insulin and how that plays a huge role in fat a little bit later. And then resistant, insulin resistance and inflammation. I'll go over how excessive inflammation is really bad, especially for fat loss. You actually gain a whole lot of fat because of it. And then I'll go over this one a little bit shortly. Body fat is meant to help you. So, for example, let's just say you get punched in the stomach. It's supposed to make sure that you don't die at one hit. Also, it holds organs in the right place. And plus, let's just say you're in a slightly cold environment. This is meant to help you heat up so that you don't die from that environment, from that cold environment. It also helps you with your immune system. So, right, from these two called cytokines and chemokines, they have immune cells such as macrophage, in which the macrophage helps direct the natural killer cells in your bodies. The natural killer cells don't come from your fats, your adipose tissue. However, nor does the macrophage. It helps recruit the macrophage, in which the macrophage can direct the killer cells to the bad guys, to the bad bacteria, and get them out of here. Your metabolic regulation. For example, think of metabolism as a furnace or as a TV right here. That's what metabolic is. It just continues on. Metabolic regulation, think of it as the remote. It controls your metabolism. It's a bit complicated, but I just wanted to give you an overview of the responsibilities it has. But the main one that I would like for you to remember is that it is a energy storage. When our body needs energy, our hormones release fat cells for energy usage. This is what we're going to be mainly going over. Why our body stores fat. So back in the day, in our primal days, we didn't have a refrigerator or McDonald's across the street or right around the corner. So when we hunted let's just say a boar, and we fed the whole tribe and everybody was full, where was you going to store the food at? You couldn't. There was no refrigerator. So unfortunately, you feel me, that food would become rotten and you couldn't eat it no more. So what our body did to adjust was that it stored the food as body fat so that we can go for days without eating and still survive. Our body only cares about surviving. That's the main function it wants to do. And it kind of ties in with why a lot of people nowadays are obese. It's because back in the day, not as far as this, but let's just say in the 1960s, we had to cook our food. There was no McDonald's, or at least if there was a McDonald's, it wasn't that, that well known. So we couldn't just walk there, then pick up the food and eat it. We had to cook it. So if you was a bad cook, the food wasn't going to taste that good. So he wasn't even going to indulge that much. However, there's a whole lot of things that, come into play with why a lot of people are obese. But unfortunately, our body hasn't yet had enough time to adjust to this new circumstance where we do have food around the corner. So gaining weight is no longer a problem for majority of people. Losing weight is a problem now. Here's the role of calorie surplus and macronutrients. So regardless if you eat out of calorie surplus, regardless if it's high fats or high carbs, you'll gain weight. You'll gain fat. If you eat out of calorie maintenance, regardless if it's high fats or high carbs, you'll remain the same. If you eat at calorie deficit, high fats or high carbs, you'll lose weight. Here's an overview of macronutrients. So with carbs, so regardless if it's complex carbs or simple sugars, complex carbs like rice, sweet potato, simple sugars like cookies and brownies. The simple sugars will be digested the fastest. However, they both get digested relatively quickly, compared to fats and protein. They get turned into glucose, blood sugar in the blood. And the ones that I use for immediate energy are used for immediate energy. However, the ones that aren't used for immediate energy are then put into glycogen stores. And then once all the glycogen stores are full, they get turned into fatty acids plus glycerol, and they turn into triglycerides. And that is adipose tissue known as fat. So that's how carbs get turned into adipose tissue stored in the body. That is the second fastest way into fat out of the three. Let's move on to protein. So first, when you eat protein, it gets turned into amino acids, and then for protein synthesis to help you repair your damaged muscles, during resistance training or whatever. Then the ones that are not used for repairing your muscles are then turned into glucose, and then the whole cycle happens once again, turning into adipose tissue. However, this has the highest steps, so you can mainly eat a lot of these, you feel me? But you don't want to eat like too much, because that's a whole nother conversation, but it can be bad for you if you eat too much or too little. With fats, we can get some fats, right? When you eat them, they get turned into fatty acids and glycerol. And then the ones that are used for energy are used for energy. But then the ones that are not used for energy are turned into adipose tissue known as body fat. This is the fastest way to get it into adipose tissue for fat. All right, I just wanted to make that clear so that you guys know how fats, carbs, and protein get turned into fat. These, in a way, kind of just, you eat them and it goes right in. It makes one pit stop and then goes right in. While carbs make multiple pit stops and then go to fat, while protein makes a lot of stops and then go to fat. How burning fat works. So it's a two-step process. So the first step is fat mobilization. Now, in order for our body to use fat as energy, we need to break up the fatty acid from the glycerol. And we need an enzyme called lipids to do that. And enzymes are essentially just little helpers within the body. And essentially lipids come into the play, breaks off the chain, and then, you feel me, the fatty acid is just roaming around in the body. However, if we do not get the fatty acid into the cell, it will get attached right back, and you have the same amount of adipose tissue. You feel me? And that's where a protein called lipoprotein comes into play. Lipoprotein helps deliver the fatty acid into the cell so that it can get oxidized, which is the next step. So here's the second step of how burning fat works. So the first step is fat oxidation, right? It gets moved into the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, and then it is used for energy. It's converted into ATP, known as energy. Then the nervous system sends signals known as axons to provide more of a stimulus for the mobilization and oxidation. Now, I'm going to make this more simpler. We don't got to know the depth of what the nervous system is, but I'm going to just go over what you need to know and a brief overview of what it is. I promise it's not as complicated as it looks. So the nervous system is a continuous loop of communication between the body, brain, and spinal cord. So it doesn't start in the brain, nor does it start or stop at the body. It's just a continuous loop. There is no start or end. And they do this through nerve cells, neurons. We call them neurons, but they are nerve cells transmitting signals. So a nerve cell right here, so the central nervous system starts at the brain and then moves down the spinal cord. And then you got all these other areas in which it's affected as well, impacted as well. So here are nerve cells, just more closer so that you can see what they specifically are connected to each other. And then this is how it looks. And they just transmit electricity and flow so that you can control your actions and your perceptions of those actions and things of this nature. That's the brief overview of what this is, the nervous system. Now, I would like to connect this to fat loss, how the nervous system and hunger, intertwine and things of that nature. The nervous system acts as a medium between the act of eating and brain response to food intake. So when you eat food, right, your gut detects it, the presence of it, the volume of it, and then signals throughout your body, the neurons, send signals to your brain so that you can control your ghrelin levels. And ghrelin, especially, think of ghrelin as the less ghrelin you have, the more full you feel. The more ghrelin you have, the more hungry you feel. Think of ghrelin that way. And that helps with the digestive system and all of that, regulating how much you feel like you want to eat. However, when you're eating a whole bunch of trans fat and excessive sugars, this can disrupt the communication between the gut and the brain, and it can cause you to overeat. But eating whole foods tends to help with the communication, and you know exactly how much you want to eat. The conversion of these fatty acids into ATP, known as energy, in the mitochondria of cells is favored by adrenaline and favored by two sources. Adrenaline is favored by two sources. First one, the adrenal glands. Please don't demonetize me. And the adrenal glands is right here on top of the kidneys. Just wanted to be more specific. That one, and the sympathetic nervous system. It stimulates alertness to promote action to the body. So the sympathetic is the one that gets your heart beating fast, and then parasympathetic is the one that gets it, slower down. The adrenaline that stimulates fat oxidation is coming from neurons that connect to the fat, not the ones that swim in the body. So let's just say you're about to get into a fight, you're about to get into the mix. That's not what burns the fat. It's specific actions, maybe something like scratching your head, that causes you to burn that fat. And we'll be going over that type of movement in a minute. So essentially, it's not just a calorie deficit that can get us to lose weight, but it's actually our nervous system that's in control of mobilization and oxidation fat that can help us lose fat as well, equaling fat loss. It can solely rely on this, but you can speed it up with our nervous system. Now that we went over how burning fat works, let's go over some workouts and the 3 hitting techniques that can help. All right, here's some workouts plus 3 movements. Let me ask you something. Have you wondered how some people, they can eat a whole bunch of food and gain absolutely nothing? So there's 2 studies done. So Rothwell and Stock back in the 1960s, studied this couple of people who would eat a whole lot but gain no weight. And they actually found out that those people would do a whole bunch of subtle movements like head bopping, knee bouncing, pacing, all that stuff. And they'll burn to 800 to 2,500 calories a day. And studies in 2015 confirmed that fidgeting, constant movements, beat tapping, all that can burn 20% to 30% of fat. Like these people deliberately, did the pen tapping, pacing, scratching of the head, extra stuff. And they lost 20% to 30% of the weight. So here's the total calorie consumption, right? Of how, your calories are burned and everything. Basal metabolism. So that's essentially you at rest. So sleeping, sitting, anything that's not exercise or eating at all. And then we got need, which is what we're going to be talking about in a minute. We got diet-induced thermogenesis. So that's the fat you burn from eating because, your metabolism has to turn food into energy. So that takes some energy. And then we got some exercise. The barbell bench pressing, the bicep curls and all that. That's where exercise comes into play. We're going to be going over non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Essentially, your action step is going to be incorporate subtle movements like knee bouncing, pacing, and standing to lose an extra 800 to 2,500 calories. And a specific action that I would recommend is just cleaning your house every single day. Even if it might not be that dirty, you cleaning your house take some, a lot of subtle movements. You gotta move a whole bunch trash around. If you're that type of person, you may have to fold your clothes. It's gonna take it's gonna take some calories out of you. So if you got the time, go ahead and incorporate this. So not only do you have a clean house, but you're also burning fat. Now, there's three types of adipose tissue. You got white adipose tissue, which is the energy storage site. So it's subcutaneous fat and not rich in mitochondria. And subcutaneous fat is underneath the skin. Yeah, underneath the skin. While visceral fat is like underneath your bones and is like more deeper in your stomach area, which one is a little bit harder to burn. So it's not rich in mitochondria, and you need the whole process of your body needing energy and, the fatty acid and the glycerol, all that stuff, the mobilization and oxidation. However, brown fat skips those steps and become burned on their own. It doesn't need to be traveled to the mitochondria to be burned because it got a whole bunch of mitochondria of its own. You feel me? So this one can be burned on its own. While beige fat is like brown fat, in which it's not rich as white adipose tissue and mitochondria. It's like a mix. Now, by getting into the cold and shivering, you trigger the release of a molecule called succinate. Succinate acts on brown adipose tissue to increase brown fat burning, so that you can actually burn fat while being cold. Whoever knew? So here's using the cold to burn fat. How to perform shiver exercise. So number one, find cold enough water. I say 60 to 30 degrees. Get in until you start generally shivering. Not when it's cold and you feel uncomfortable. When you start generally shivering, after about a minute or so, get out. That's when it's probably going to start happening. Wait about a minute to 3 minutes and then get right back in. And then do this whole entire process 4 times. And you can do this 1 to 5 times a week. To trigger the shiver is to get into the cold and then get out. Don't dry off because you want to be cold on purpose. Get back into the cold and then get out. And that's how you perform this. This could be a quick task that you could do, which will burn you a lot of calories on top of the need. On to the next. When you're in the gym, you see people who finish a whole workout. You may have got there, then you saw them there, and then once you finish, you see them on a treadmill, and then you could just assume that they finished the workout and they're about to go on a treadmill so they can burn some fat. Here's how you can make that whole entire process more effective. You can do it fasted. So, right, when you work out fasted, instead of your body using glycogen from carbs, your body is going to run on ketones, which is from your fat. So you can directly, make your body skip the glycogen and get right to the fat so that you can burn, more fat. However, and this is going to happen after the 60 to 90 minute mark, right? So once your glycogen is completely gone, your body will run on ketones. So you want to try this out on 2 conditions. 1, you don't necessarily care that much on building muscle. And 2, if you do this and you feel like you can't even do the workout in the first place, then there's no point in doing it. You need to actually have enough willpower, to actually perform it. So if carbs make you able to work out better, then I would choose that instead. However, if you can do it, this could help you burn more fat. You feel me? And I would suggest waiting 5 hours before eating anything before the workout so that you can get to switching over to ketones much faster. But speaking of workouts, I wanted to go over some workout checklists that you can do to make sure that you're doing the workout correctly and burning as much or maintaining as much muscle as possible. So, right, muscles are metabolically, however you want to say it, expensive. So they take a whole lot of resources to either maintain or build upon, meaning that it'll take some from your fat. So in order to make sure that you're building as much muscle as possible, you want to make sure that you're doing the workouts correctly. And here's a checklist for every single workout that you do. Now, bear in mind, you can do alterations that don't necessarily need this, but for majority of workouts, this will be a good checklist. Just like the flat bench press, flat dumbbell press, all that stuff. So make sure you control the weight without using your non-target muscles. So let's just say you're doing bicep curls. Make sure you're not using your glutes to help you swing the weight up. Make sure that you keep your back straight, your body straight, and it's only use, well, your biceps. Control the negative and the eccentric. So don't just dump the barbell on your chest, which can actually significantly raise your risk of injury. And then you're going to have to take months off the gym. Make sure you control the eccentric, the negative, and then push right back up and go to the positive. Make sure you get a deep stretch, because it has been shown that when you get a deep stretch, when you get a deep lengthened position, that will actually help you build much more muscle than if it was at the contraction. You feel me? So make sure you get that deep stretch. All right. Now, here are some diet guidelines. The diet, a guide to high fat diets. Are high fat diets superior in terms of fat loss? Nah, but you can lose a shit ton of weight by doing so. As long as you're on a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. However, it is more complicated when you're eating a whole lot of fats and a whole lot of carbs, because without getting your protein in, I'm supposed to build muscle, and muscle can help you burn more fat. So you gotta choose one, either high carbs or high fats. But I'll go over carbs in another video. These are some benefits that people, got from going on a high fat diet, including myself, because I was on keto for about like 7 to 8 months, and then carnivore diet for like 3 months. So I definitely got improved mental clarity, from it. You feel me? And then my blood sugar obviously improved because I was eating less carbs, and then sustained energy levels. Yeah, I did feel like the same energy levels throughout the day. I didn't feel like a spike up or like a spike down. Mainly just the same. I improved skin health. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. My skin was flawless when I was on the carnivore and the keto. So, 100%. If you're going to go on these high fat diets, it's very important for you to know which fats is best for you. So, for example, I'll suggest 2/3 of your diet. I got this guideline from Dr. Mike Isatel, from Periodization Renaissance periodization. I butcher that name, OD. Hold on. But essentially, you want monounsaturated fats and polyunsaturated fats. So here are the health effects. It helps reduce inflammation. And I'll be going over the problems of excessive inflammation in a later slide. And then it helps you with your insulin. So, right, if you're not too sure what an insulin is, insulins are essentially taxis for your blood sugar. So when you eat carbs, it gets turned into blood glucose. And then, it gets to turn into glucose. But then it's also blood sugar as well in the body. It helps deliver the blood sugar into the cells so that you have energy. However, if you become insulin resistant, in which is too much blood sugar or glucose, the blood sugar will have nowhere else to go other than your adipose tissue known as fat. So with insulin sensitivity, you can put more blood sugar or glucose in your cells for more energy. Now, polyunsaturated fats help reduce inflammation, and it's essential for brain health. Now, for essential fatty acids, these are like fatty acids that you can't really produce on your own in your body. So it'd be best to get it from food or supplementation, such as omega-3 and 6 oils, right? These have been shown to help with cognitive function, help you think more, and reduce cognitive decline, which is hurting your thinking and your ability to think. You feel me? And the foods that help with this are canola oil, olive oil, avocados, nut butters. You feel me? Had some peanut butter a little bit earlier. And fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, all that. You got seeds, nuts, vegetable oils, and it'll be suggested to have most of your calories come from these sources. However, if you're on like a carnivore or a keto, then you have no choice but to have saturated fats in your diet if you want to hit your protein codes and all that. And even if you're bulking, it's even worse. But we're on fat loss, so I'll stay on topic. With saturated fats, they're mainly found in animal products like red meat, beef, lamb, pork, all of it. All the red meat. And then full fat dairy products, like cheese, cream, whole milk, all that. Processed foods, a lot of processed foods like cakes, pastries, cookies, fried foods, plant-based sources like coconut oil, palm oil, and all that. So here's the thing with saturation fat. A lot of people who had strokes in the past have been shown to have a whole lot of saturation fat. However, saturation fat does raise up your overall cholesterol. So it does, and when you level up your good cholesterol, that serves as building blocks to help you build more testosterone. However, it does raise the bad cholesterol that you don't want. So regardless if you're on a high fat diet or a lower one, you want to keep this in moderation. However, if you're on a high fat diet, then you don't necessarily have to limit yourself that much to like a little bit of red meat, because red meat does help. And I can tell you right now, ribeye steaks do help you with the testosterone. Honestly, I felt more energetic and more alive. So I wouldn't worry about this too much, and you know what I mean, like get too overcomplicated about it. Be like, okay, I just ate my third steak for the day, I'm gonna die. No, don't think that way. Now here's the fat that you don't want: trans fat, which are found in cookies, cakes, pies, and crackers, microwave popcorn, donuts, French fries, a lot of fried food, margarines. That's like a type of butter. Packaged foods like pre-made dough, frozen pizza, all that stuff. Now, I went into depth about trans fat and why it's bad, and how to lose weight and keep that weight off using science. But I'll go over, some health negatives to fat loss, specifically increased insulin resistance. So essentially, like I explained a little bit earlier, with insulin, it serves as taxis to the cells for the blood sugar to go to. So if it starts taking a lot more insulin to help deliver the glucose into the cell, then you're gonna have nowhere else to put them other than fat storage. When the glycogen stores are all full of stuff, you're gonna have to put them somewhere. You also mess up the gut-brain axis in your gut, and that hurts the communication between your gut to your brain. So you confuse your brain, like, I don't know if am I full enough or do I need more food? I don't know. I'm gonna just assume we need more food. Okay, let me trigger ghrelin and make it raise higher. You need to eat more food, and then you get a slower metabolism because of increased inflammation. So when you eat a whole lot of when you eat a whole lot of trans fat, you get a whole lot of inflammation, excessive. So that messes up with your metabolism. Like I said, I went into a little bit more depth and in this video because it does get a little bit complicated, but I was able to break it down in that video. And because of that, as a result, you get an increase in adipose tissue, meaning that you gain a whole lot more fats a whole lot faster. So I would suggest keeping this down to almost a zero compared to your diet. You feel me? But I understand that you already ate all this stuff, very know how it tastes, so you're not gonna get rid of it. But like I said in this video, I really went over how you can fit this in your diet and how you can fit trans fat in your diet and still be able to lose weight. You need to consider this if you're going on a high fat diet. If you aren't, then it doesn't really matter too much on the fats. And like I said, on the high fat diet, you don't want to get too upset of yourself if you eat a whole bunch of saturation fat. It's all good. Just make sure that you're getting polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats in your diet. All right. But trans fat can really hurt you. I'll be honest. But I understand you already know how it tastes, so just incorporate small amounts of it. Now, introducing the most two popular high-fat diets. Starting with number 1, the keto diet. Here's the macro split you will like to have if you're going on a keto diet. So with the protein, you get 40 to 50% of protein of the whole thing, and then 40% of fats, and then 10%, no more than 10% of carbs. That's how you stay on the keto diet. Now, here are some examples I want to share with you. You got vegetables, dairy and dairy substitutes, nuts and seeds, oils, your proteins, your ground beef, eggs. It's not that restrictive, honestly. It is pretty restrictive because you got rid of majority of carbs, majority of rice and sweet potatoes and all that. Now, you can eat other foods as long as they fit in the macro split. You feel me? This is not everything you have to eat. There's a whole bunch more. It's just that it would have been pretty long. You feel me? On to the next. The carnivore diet. I had to use I have to use my Fitness Pal macro split because I couldn't even find the image online. However, don't confuse it, because when I was beginning the carnivore diet, I was confusing the whole thing, but it's essentially just eating meats and smaller amounts of dairy. So any type of meat you can think of, come on guys, let's be mature here. Any meat you can think of, you can eat, all right, and you have small amounts of dairy. That's what's suggested on a carnivore diet, and because with dairy, it has some carbs in it. You feel me? Some sugar. So that's why you want them in smaller amounts if you're deciding to go on a carnivore diet. Now, we have went through all the four, and now you know what fat is, how to burn fat, scientifically, the workouts, 3 hitting techniques, need, faster workouts, and shivering. Now you got the diet guidelines. If you're going on a high-fat diet, 2/3 poly unsaturated and monosaturated, 2/3 of your diet. Other 1/3 of your diet, saturated fats, but don't get overcomplicated about it. Don't hate yourself if you eat a whole bunch of saturated fat. And now, to conclude, you now have the knowledge to make choices for your future. Just to reiterate, my name is Omar. I was able to lose 80 plus pounds within a year, and I've helped other people on their journey as well. I talk about fat in depth and gave practical actions you can do to create better decisions for yourself. Plan of action for you. Make better choices with the information you have just learned. And by the way, I have the ultimate fat loss protocol. So if you're looking for a personalized, science-based regimen for you to follow so that you're on an effective streak to fat loss, effective and efficient, road to fat loss, then go ahead and click on the top link of the description right now and be sure to have the dream physique of your life. And with that being said, always take it one step at a time, because you may never know where that one step may lead you. All right. Catch you next time.